Hello everybody and welcome to another video. In today's video I will be taking a first look at a new 3D printer which I haven't as of yet heard much about. I am planning on making a follow-up video which will be a full review, however today I'll go over the assembly and first impressions that I have of this machine. I bought this machine online soon after it was available and have been taking a closer look at its capabilities. This video was in no way sponsored. I purchased this machine in order to fit the requirements for some of my client work and decided on this model. The packaging was extremely well done, which was a relief given the shipping company that was used to deliver the printer. One thing that is important to note is that the support bars are hidden in a compartment in the foam, so you want to make sure to find those pieces, otherwise you won't benefit from the rigid frame design. If you pick up the pieces of foam, you'll notice that one is heavier than the others, and this is where the compartment is located. Once opened, you should have all the materials that you need to assemble this machine. However, at the time of the recording, the BLT Touch was on back order. Therefore, I will be including this in the follow-up video instead. The user manual is very well designed with a parts breakdown list and diagram in color, which is always a good sign. The company has also been very good in providing instructional tutorials within their website in order to help with problem solving. Before you begin assembly, always take all the components and place them out so that you can make sure you have all the required parts. This is a simple but important step before you begin working on putting any machine together. Lay the frame on top after you turn the couplings upwards to give yourself some more room. When attaching the main bolts to the frame, I would recommend moving the machine to the side of the table so that you can see underneath without damaging any of the components. I normally loosely tighten these screws until I have them all placed, at which point I tighten them fully. If you over tighten, then you could risk bending or stripping the threads, so they should be tight enough that they won't come loose, but not so tight that you could see the tool bending with the force. For the pull rod, you'll first need to join two of the poles together using the provided double-ended screw. You'll want to partially turn in one portion of the component. For the second bar, you'll want to hold it with your thumb to prevent it from spinning while you attach the second pole. You'll then attach the live bolt to either end of the joined pole. Take one of the screws and place this through the live bolt while placing the washer on the opposite side. Screw this first into the bottom hole. In my case, the hole was covered with a plastic cap to help protect them, so you want to remove these before you can complete the assembly. Make sure to add the bolt onto the live bolt since this will help lock the bar into place. In my initial assembly, I overlooked this portion and had to fix this later on. Make sure to use the wrench to tighten the bolt afterwards. Next, I pre-threaded the L connector for the top of the frame, making sure to keep these as loose as possible. These turn around in the groove to lock themselves into place if put correctly. Double check to make sure that they're turned the right way after you put these into place. I then attach the live bolt into the frame in the same manner as the bottom of the rod. The Z end stop goes to the side where the two screw holes are and with the switch facing upwards. The company also provided a replacement switch in case it's needed in the future, so make sure that you store this in a safe location. I made sure to change the correct input voltage to my area requirements, which happens to be 115 for me. The next part was to attach the filament runout detector. This portion has an arrow so that you know the proper orientation for this part. I mounted it with the arrow facing to the front so that the light is visible when turned on. As for the filament spool, I mounted it differently from what was shown in the diagram. From personal experience, I've had some spools which could get caught on edges, so chose the smoother side as the contact area. The filament runout sensor seems to have quite a bit of friction and may cause issues during printing. I made sure to mount it as close as possible while still having enough room for a full-size spool of filament. If this is your first printer and you don't have a full spool, keep in mind that you'll need to adjust this later since the provided one is extremely small in comparison. With the basic assembly completed, I then connected the power cable and build plate connector to the power box. Following the label of the cables, I connected the two Z-axis connectors and a Z-stop sensor. Afterwards, I proceeded to connect the Y-axis motor XE transfer interface, YZ transfer interface, filament runout sensor, extruder motor, and the cable guide by following the instructions and labels provided. When I received my shipment, the cable guide was attached to a frame. However, this came off during unboxing, so make sure to check carefully to ensure that you've installed this before finishing. Also, it's very important to give the cable enough slack in order to move completely to the back to prevent any undue strain. This guide is important in preventing premature wear of the cable, which is a common issue with printers. With the machine put together, it was now time to print the model that was provided with the printer. It's always a good idea to test the model before doing anything else, since this can help diagnose issues more quickly. In my case, the print came out almost flawless. However, because of the choice of filament, it was difficult to see the imperfections along the surface. Once this print was completed, I then swapped out the nozzle to check how it printed with a larger nozzle size. I must point out that changing the nozzle is somewhat awkward if you don't know how to do it. This is something which I will discuss in a full review of the machine afterwards. With the nozzle changed out, I then began tweaking my settings until I had something which worked fairly well. I'll be doing quite a bit more tweaks before I finish this piece off, but for now, this is how the print came out. If you liked this video, please feel free to subscribe, and should you wish to support more content like this, you can do so by visiting my online shop, which is in the description below. For those of you who may not know, I do live streams twice a week on Twitch, so make sure to keep an eye out for those if you're interested. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you guys soon. Thank you and take care.